هم الآن يخدمون في أفغانستان. التقى رجلان في المسجد الذي يرتادانه بالقرب من كولورادو سبرينغ، أولهما مستمر في الخدمة كجندي في السلك الطبي، والآخر برتبة رئيس عرفاء تقاعد قبل 9 سنوات، ودار بينهما حديث عن تجاربهما في الجيش.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dawood Salam, and I came to Islam in 1975 at the age of 18. I retired from the U.S. Army in 2002 at Fort Carson, and now I'm taking care of my garden.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mustafa Bilal. I'm a specialist in the U.S. Army, and I decided to start practicing Islam around 4 years ago.
من أنزل الأمطار وفجر الأنهار وأنبت الأزهار تزخرف الجبال من ينشر الصباح ويرسل الرياح ويملأ البطاح برزقه الحلال. الله 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 الله.
Desert Storm, August 1990, it's a long time ago. I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And it did bother me somewhat that that we, the United States, were potentially going to go to war against Iraq, a Muslim country. I do recall that, being troubled by that. Many soldiers were deployed to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and eventually Iraq.
تم إرسال مصطفى كجندي في السلك الطبي إلى شرقي أفغانستان في محافظة نانجاهار في العام 2008.
One of my brothers is a Baptist Christian, and my other brothers and sisters consider themselves Muslim.
I was born in 1957 in Miller, Georgia, Macon, Georgia. My parents, George Eason, my mother, Pearlie Eason. They were loving parents, and I had 8 brothers and sisters.
My parents divorced when I was 3, and I lived with my mother in California up until I was 13. Then I went to go live with my father. My father was a very strict Muslim. It was like a 180-degree turnaround from living with my mother. My mother wasn't really strict in her faith, so it was kind of easy to just go along with society and the culture of America, living under her household. When I went to go live with my father, it was like he was really strict. He made me reread the Quran every morning. He made me pray when I was younger, and he made sure that I stayed away from all the parties and whatnot of my teenage life in America.
This was a part of my life. You have to understand. You have to put it in the context of the times. There was the middle of the 70s, and the area of the United States that I was living in, the South. And there's a lot of history. If you don't know the history, that's when the races, blacks and white, was separated. And there was a lot of discrimination going on. And at this time, blacks were demanding their rights. And, they were making connection to Africa and, the liberation struggle that was going on across the so-called third world. And I, as a young man, was interested in what was going on, and I read a lot. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and Malcolm X tells about his conversion to Islam him going to Mecca and being a Muslim. And so this influenced me. And I didn't know it at the time that, that I too would become a Muslim. And I think just reading his autobiography, his story, had a great, profound influence on my life.
To be honest, when I was younger, I really didn't consider myself Muslim. I was just going through the formalities of what my parents wanted me to do. I was living a very purposeless lifestyle, just going to school, partying, hanging out, chasing behind the fast women, all that fun stuff. And just sitting at home alone at night, not knowing, what my life was meant for. I started to read the Quran, and in my search for the truth, I found that Islam was indeed the truth for me.
So my family, I think they were more concerned for me. So they really didn't embrace the idea of me becoming a Muslim. But later on, after they saw my commitment and my dedication, and they understood that this was how Islam had changed my life, because I was a troubled teenager. I was 18 years old when I became a Muslim. Up in that time, I was pretty wild, I would say. But my family saw that Islam changed me from being wild to a respectable young man.
My brothers and sisters, I don't think they're as strict in their faith as they would like to be. I think that the cultural influence is getting the best of them. My sister, she tends to dress according to American cultural standards and not American standards, and so does their children.
I was concerned when I became a Muslim because my father, I recall, he thought it was a sign of, especially when I changed my name, that I was rejecting him. So he wasn't too thrilled about that because my family name is Eason. But when I became Muslim, I took on the name Salam because of the meaning, the attributes of that, meaning peace. Also, it was a rejection of what I considered a slave name that had been given to my foreparents from their slave masters. So I rejected that, and I took on a name that I thought was more suitable and more in line to who I was. So there was some pushback from my family, because, like I said, my father thought I was rejecting him, but in which I really wasn't. I was just rejecting some of the ideas that I no longer could agree with. Became a Muslim in 1975, out of high school, worked several jobs, was making some progress, lost a job, and then I turned, as many people, do. The military was available, and I turned to the military. I joined the military in 1982.
When I decided to accept Islam, within 2 weeks, I called my brothers and sisters and parents. And I was just explaining to them my spiritual awakening and how I knew that Islam was true without any doubts. And I started to just explain to them my spiritual awakening and that how Islam should be their lifestyle choice as well. My sisters, they kind of was like, okay, thanks for sharing, Mustafa. My brother was like, you know what, I'm Baptist and that's how it's going to be. When I called my father and my mother and told them about it, they were really pleased, of course. And they were really encouraging. They encouraged me to keep reading the Quran, keep praying, and keep extending my knowledge about Islam and the practices and the traditions that come along with it. When I was in a relationship with my girlfriend at the time, It was quite difficult. We've been together quite a long time, and we've been through some things, and we're actually considering being married. And when I told her that I was going to start being Muslim, and it really weighed heavy on her. Once I started to practice Islam, she didn't consider becoming Muslim at all. I tried to encourage her to read the Quran, but it just wasn't something that she wanted to do. So we kind of agreed without really agreeing to just go our separate ways.
لم يكن لداوود أي نية لإيجاد حياة مهنية خارج نطاق الجيش الأمريكي.
And this was to be a short thing, 3 years, and maybe go back to school and finish school or something like that. But it ended up being 20 years. It turned out to be.
My experiences in the military has differed from good, bad, ugly. I have developed some strong friendships, some strong bonds that I know that I would take with me to the grave and that I would not have been able to develop and experience anywhere else. I've experienced some ugly things as well. When I first went into training back in 2008, I remember clearly during one of our battle drills that they were playing surahs from the Holy Quran over the loudspeakers, and the adhan as well, the call to prayer, while we were shooting weapons and practicing our infantry maneuvering skills. After I had a